From the big two to an incomplete big three, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker combined for 66 points. But they still lost to the Blazers without their teammate Bradley Beal. Phoenix is just now one game over 500 on the season. But get this, other than Booker and KD, no Sun player scored more than 11 points as the Suns lost their third game to a bottom 5 team in the league. And obviously, health is a huge factor in this discussion. And you look at the numbers there, 66 points scored out of the team's 104. But Coach Becky, will a healthy Bradley Beal solve all of the Suns' problems?
No, it won't solve all the problems. It'll solve some problems. I can't put my finger on this team. Exactly. Something is missing, and it has nothing to do with the basketball court, I feel like. I don't know their team. I don't know those individuals. But there's some kind of grit factor, or I think they have competitive guys. Something I can't put my finger on it yet. Hopefully stats will play out and they can figure it out, but there's something internal there that I don't know why they would be able to give up a loss like this to the Portland Trail Blazers.
You're making a face, Wendy.
Well, their spirit hasn't been great the last couple games. Perk's pointing at me, but their spirit hasn't been great. Typically, when you have a star player go down, your team tends to bounce a little bit. Over the course of time, you feel it. They haven't done that in the wake of the Beal injury, and I wonder if that's because it's happened repeatedly. Also, they signed a bunch of minimum guys. They were really happy with the guys that they got on the minimum, and I do think they did well. But they're minimum guys for a reason, and those guys generally have not played great. They haven't had any of those signings. Nobody has stepped forward and been like, oh, wow, what a steal that they're getting on the minimum. Now, we're only in December. There's still time for that to be fixed. But it puts a lot of burden on Durant and Booker. And last night, this whole team sort of died on the vine in the second half. Not what you'd expect to see under the circumstances.
That's true, but I do expect Perk with a Wendy finger. You are pointing. What's your biggest issue with the Suns?
And it's the holidays, and I hate to come on here grumpy and being negative, but damn it, I got to speak the truth. And Becky was talking about she couldn't put her finger on it. But damn it, I can. I can, Becky. I'm going to put my finger on it. Here's the thing about the Phoenix Suns. They're soft. They're soft all across the board. And the whole league knows that if you bring a certain level of physicality, that the Phoenix Suns are going to fold like clean sheets. They know this. And so when you watch the Suns play, teams are going to do what? The one thing that they're going to do is try to beat up on the Suns in the interior. They're going to try to crash the glass. The other thing that they're going to do is going to involve a lot of guys like KD and Devin Booker to be in cross-screen actions or pick-and-roll actions. They're going to put Nurkic in the pick-and-roll. When I think about the Phoenix Suns, they're going to, in order for this to change, it's not going to be Bradley Beal that's going to change this narrative about this team. It's going to be them having to buckle down and bring a certain level of physicality. Otherwise, we're going to see this inconsistent play and see teams like the Portland Trail Blazers beat the Phoenix Suns, and they're not going to stack up wins until they figure that out.
Becky, you heard Perk. Are the Phoenix Suns soft?
Well, I mean, I guess. I can't explain. It's not a skill set problem, right? All right, Perk, get in there and dirty those sheets. You got to dirty the sheets. No folded clean sheets. You got to get in there and mix it up. But maybe that's the grittiness and the toughness that I'm talking about. Freaking take a punch, get the frick back up and hit somebody. Go hit somebody.
Yeah, there are games that you're not supposed to lose, and the Trailblazers might unfortunately be one of them. But we can't ignore that the new CBA has made it difficult to really build and keep a big three like this. So, Brian, could the Suns be really the last hope for this idea of a big three in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't supposed to be built in this CBA. The CBA happened, and they, in 5 seconds, went out and made a star trade. They basically thumbed their nose at it. The important thing in the NBA right now is your third best player. You cannot miss on that contract. That guy is, if you're going to pay him the max, he's got to be a stud. And if you're going to pay him a lot of money and he underachieves, you're going to feel it. And so this team reminds me so much, Coach, of the 2010-11 Heat. That big three there, the team was made up of mostly role players, and they struggled when their role players didn't stand up. They really needed those three guys to come together, and it took 20 games. Remember, they were 500. 17, 18 games in. It took 20 games for them to get their feet up underneath them, and it took another year to where they could use draft picks and use a free agency to get a couple of role players. But that's the Suns can't do that. They don't have draft picks, and they are not allowed to use their mid-level exceptions. So this is kind of who they have, and they got to rally from within. And I think they can. I believe in this team, but right now we're not seeing the results.
Yeah, and it's very much predicated on health. I guess it's a little chilly in the desert, but that's normal for this time of the year. Over half of the Celtics shots were from beyond the arc. They took 58 three-point attempts and missed a franchise record 41 of them. But they're committed to it. Boston is on pace to finish top 5 all-time for three-point attempts in a single season. So obviously this is what the team wants to do. But Brian, is the Celtics' reliance on the three ball a bit too much?
Yes. And the good news is they are an awesome three-point shooting team. Arguably, from in terms of all the way down their lineup, the most potent three-point shooting team in the league. The bad news is that they know it. And so they can lean on it. This is a classic case. How many times in your career as a player or coach have you had a team that you've had to learn and teach how to win at the end of the game? Don't take the easy way out. There's an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter of this game. There is no excuse for a team of Celtics quality to lose in a situation like that. And it's no excuse that they will go all these possessions in a row where they take a three-pointer. They cannot let the Warriors get bailed out. And forget about a game in December. They can't bail out teams in the Eastern Conference playoffs in the spring because they are the best team in the East. They can't open doors for everybody else.
I think a couple things jump out. First of all, the Celtics, I love three balls. I really do. But at the end of the day, and maybe it's a philosophical thing, but the paint and the free throw line, you end up getting both, and you get more quality looks. Now, I'm not saying they weren't open. There were some open looks, but on nights when it's just not falling, you got to figure out other ways to score. And I think that's putting the ball. They do have guys that can get downhill, and I think just don't always take the easy one. Try to work for the great one because they took a lot of good shots. Get the great one, get going to the rim, and get some momentum going for yourselves. But we always used to say when I was with the Spurs, up 20, down 20, it doesn't matter with Golden State. Like, you're always in it. You're never really out of it, and you're never really, like, they're never going to blow you out in a sense where you can't come back because they're going to play the way they played. But I thought Boston kind of fell into that a little bit more.
They also were tried too hard to get Steph's sixth foul. When they spent half the fourth quarter trying to attack him, and it got him out of their rhythm, and they never got it back.
Yeah, Perk, did you not like what you saw with the Celtics, especially with their commitment to keep going at Steph, which really disrupted their offensive flow?
Well, it's a lot of things that I don't like about the Boston Celtics, and this is why, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon right now as far as them winning it all. It's because of things that we saw last night. The three-point shooting was one thing, but when you have the athleticism of a Jason Tatum, a Jaylen Brown, a Derek White, and a Drew Holiday, there's nowhere in hell that you shouldn't be attacking downhill more and getting to the free throw line. Okay, and if you are going to search Steph Curry out, a lot of times we saw Steph Curry was on Drew Holiday at some points in that fourth quarter and in overtime. When Drew Holiday caught it on the low block, Steph was scared to bang with him a little bit. How about just keeping it simple? Turn Drew Holiday. Let him keep going to work. The Celtics make things too hard. And on top of it, the last thing, they play basketball through periods of a game that make my damn skin crawl. Too much one-on-one, too much isolation. It's times that they get down the floor and it's zero passes. It's just one guy going one-on-one, whether that's Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. And here's the thing, if the Celtics are trying to accomplish the goal that they're trying to accomplish, Joe Mazzulla is going to have to do a better job of getting these guys to buy in and mix it up when it comes down to just spreading the floor and shooting threes and going isolation.
What are your expectations for this upcoming road trip?
Well, I expect them to get their defensive identity back, right? And get back to just playing hard, right, on both ends of the floor. You see spurts where it was times right during the in-season tournament before they started to lose these games, right after the in-season tournament, where D'Angelo Russell he's not fighting as hard as he used to getting over screens. We don't see LeBron James taking charges. And, we don't see Jared Vanderbilt coming in and having the effect that he could have on the defensive end. Outside of that, I just feel like they need to get their identity back. It's nothing more, nothing less. Well, when Gabe Vincent comes back, he'll provide a spark on the perimeter. I think Austin Reeves has been sensational off the bench. And I feel like a LeBron James team will get their identity back and get back to rolling on this road trip, especially before they see Boston on Christmas Day.
Right. Gabe Vincent was not on that is the fourth game, which is the home game against the Celtics on Christmas. Gabe Vincent has been upgraded to probable for tonight. So we could see him, I think, for the first time in 6 weeks coming off that injury. And they need it as, you know, they need some offense as well. I mean, they're a defensive-based team, so they have to defend to do well. But the way that they're aligned and the way that they're built, they really need some guard scoring. Otherwise, there's so much pressure on AD and LeBron to really have great games. Because sometimes they lose, and you're like, man, AD had an off night, or LeBron had a little bit of an off night, and you're like, yeah, that's why they lost. But sometimes it's because their other guys just haven't been able to deliver. So Gabe should provide, assuming he's healthy, some of that spark. But they also need D'Angelo Russell, and, you know, they need Cam Reddish to hit some shots. They need Taurean Prince to hit some shots. And by the way, the Bulls have won 6 of their last 9 games since Zach LaVine went down. They are coming off a win in Philly the other night, which is one of the most impressive wins on the Eastern Conference this season. This is going to be a real challenge for the Lakers tonight.
Look, Becky, there are some parallels for what you had to deal with in the postseason in the WNBA Finals to what the Lakers sort of are dealing with trying to get their players back. How did you manage your finals run to a championship, considering that you had to, you know, really imbibe energy with your role players like Kayla George and company?
Well, first of all, you start on the defensive end, right? Like, you got to play some defense because, you know, with Chelsea and some of my other players out, you're not going to have the offense that you normally do. So bank on that defense. So if the Lakers can get back on track defensively, I think that's a great start. I love Gabe getting back into the mix because just his presence alone will give those other guys space. Whether he hits shots, of course you want him to hit shots and get shots, but just his presence out there opens it up for everybody in a really obvious way. And if you're going out on this road trip and you're the Lakers, get this first one. And then try to steal one of those other two.
That is absolutely right.
You won a championship on the road versus the New York Liberty, so you know this best. But are you worried about them being, 28th, 27th in three-point makes while trying to bring their defense to hold them around?
Well, I mean, this is a three-point league anymore. But I think in big games, in the playoffs, being able to make twos and be efficient sometimes is more important and trumps the three. And you know I love the three ball. But you got to be able to put the ball in the hole in big moments. And they have proven guys that can do that in big moments. So it's not that this is a must-win for the Lakers, but this would be a nice statement and a nice way to start their road trip.
Yeah.